everyone. Welcome to the Lawyerlifter Podcast, or Mel's Minutes, where I talk about lifting, life, and business. Okay, so hi, everybody. I still have Ariana here, my executive assistant, and today's episode is moving from last episode where, what were the changes with Uplift Law in the midst of the pregnancy, but also really what am I doing in terms of preparing for being a mom? And that is just so fucked up because I mean, it is I'm thankful that I do have help because I have these questions and Ariana's been able to help me and here I'm staring at Shorty who does all of the Uplift Law videos and etc. And I'm thinking about the fact that I've actually been asked how has this changed you emotionally? And I feel I feel even more of a savage, being pregnant boss lady, I'm even more I want to obliterate my opposing counsel, or I'm very much more focused. I don't know if that's pregnancy hormones, but the reason why I talk about Shorty is because I was thinking about wow, yeah, I'm excited to be a mom, but if you guys know my husband, Jonathan Skelly, he is very good for me because I operate at this insane level and John is super mellow, and I hate to be a dick about this, but he's going to be so good for the baby because he's so nurturing, because he's so patient, and I am just so a
little cutthroat.
I am I'm very cutthroat, and I think wow, I am so excited. I'm going to be in a boy form. I feel I'm about to dominate because I'm going to have a boy. And, I feel I feel wow, John's going to be great. I've told John already because he has paternity leave through his company. I'm I carried this baby for fucking 9 months, you're going to pick up the slack. And that's it. And, so I've noticed I've gotten more edgy in that way. And I was I keep hearing that once baby comes out, you just kind of do this 360. So that was when I approached Ariana. I was you know what, nobody during this entire fucking process, especially John or the birth doula, is going to be really documenting this. And I'm very curious as to what would that change be in me? And what does that look like? So hence Shorty. And I just even recently found out only from Mike Shea, because we had a Zoom, what it means to be in labor, really. What it means to embark on that process of delivery. And he broke it down in stupid terms for me so I could understand. He actually said, well, Mel, you could be hours and hours in this process, but that doesn't mean you're actually
in active labor.
You're not. It doesn't mean you're going to be pushing like that. But it means that a lot of energy is going to be expended. So we need to back off and get you more calories, more fast acting carbs. He was talking to me I was straight up I'm preparing for competition because he's the last thing you want to do during that time is not have enough energy to last those hours, especially because you're trying to, have a natural birth. You're trying not to do C-section. You don't want to just, give up. So you do need we need to have in your hospital bag fast acting carbs, snacks that are actually going to keep you fueled, etc. So I was like, wow, like I really do want to understand all of this. And it's like, and then so I'm like, okay, well, I guess Shorty's gonna put something together. And like, from what I've seen on Instagram, especially some of the pregnant athletes that I follow, one being Kiana Welch. She was or is I think Shorty, like a juggernaut weightlifter, but she is also a nutritionist under, I think, Black Iron Nutrition. But she had her second child, baby girl, and it was a home birth in a pool, like in an inflatable, because she put on her story like what that was like. She had a birth doula and everything like that. And I don't know who was filming. It wasn't like all completely filmed, but a lot of, it's interesting, I think, that when you want a birth plan, it can change. So that's also what I want to know. And then how is that going to change my face when I see like him? And like I'm actually like scared for John and Shorty, because I'm like, wow, like what sort of pain is that gonna, like what sort of like sounds am I gonna make? Like what
like how are you gonna react and stuff like that?
I've been with Shorty like through competition, like like it's gonna be totally different.
And for you to watch back on it and to see, and then I know as soon as you see him, you're gonna be like, it's gonna be like a whole different experience.
Yeah, I'm gonna be
a breath of fresh air. I feel
well, it's just the thing is, like, thinking about it, where I've just seen ultrasounds. I recently saw that 4D, and then to see like an actual human, like that's, if you really just sit there and think about it, like, wow, like I incubated this, like, and now it's out. Now he's out.
Oh, it's
like
beautiful,
that's nuts. Yeah, you weren't there for your sisters.
I know.
Did you want to be there?
I wanted to be there so bad, but I think they only allowed 2 people in her room, and so I wasn't able to be in there. But I saw him after.
You didn't think that you would be scared at all?
I think I was more excited than scared. But what happened was the day she gave birth was actually her baby shower. So I had all those excitements and I wasn't really scared, but I was trying so hard to get over to the hospital before after the baby shower. But she gave birth during the baby shower at 3:40 when we were all hanging out at the baby shower, and she gave birth then. So I rushed over and saw him after. But
yeah.
It was beautiful. I don't think I was scared at all. I think I was just excited. I think she was a little nervous. I know her boyfriend threw up right before and was scared.
Oh, yeah. Like, I don't. So I asked my therapist, who is, she has a PhD. I straight up was like, is there something that happens in a woman where you forget how fucking horrible that process is, because women end up doing it again? And she's like, actually, yeah, like there is something that happens in a woman's brain where, it can be so traumatic, it can be so painful, blah, blah, blah. But somehow the way that a woman's body or mind has evolved is like, as soon as that baby comes out, all of that pain and all of that whatever, it just completely stops. And then you just like it just goes away. Like all of those hours. And I'm like, that is fucking nuts. Because I was thinking, like, if it's just so, like, no matter what, like, it's going to be a difficult process, well, why would you do it again? Like, why would you?
Why do you have more kids?
Yeah, and something legitimately happens.
That's crazy.
It is. It's
like,
fucked
really
up.
Crazy. No,
right?
Yes.
It's like, to me, I think I was like, wow, that's pretty fucked up. That they wipe your memories, or something, just so you can.
They blind you.
Right? So yeah, so I was like, okay, well, so I had you like check with Hogue and see like
Yeah, so I did some research on some classes for after baby and before. I found 3 classes. One is a 4th trimester baby care, because no one ever talks about the 4th trimester. The 4th trimester is all postpartum. They're helping you kind of talk about your emotions and how you've grown into, okay, now I'm a parent and now I'm a mom and now me and my husband are experiencing something different. So they discuss everything between you and your husband. And I signed you up for that one. And then a baby basics. So everything about the baby, feeding him, just a walkthrough. And then a breastfeeding class, because we're going to definitely try and breastfeed and pump. So they will help you through all of that. And I also did some research, even though I got the HIPAA card pulled on me on the pelvic floor specialist.
Yeah.
So I did some research on that. I know you want to get into that, and that'll be 8 weeks after baby's born.
Yeah. That's because that's important. And like, I am with Juan, I am now, my training's changed or shifted to be more strengthening on the core and pelvic floor, because we're like, oh fuck, like it almost is like training for an event. So yeah, that's why I'm like, oh, I asked you about the pelvic floor specialist, because if you think about it, like, you are pushing, I mean, yes, okay, like I deadlift, I am I have the potential to deadlift 400 pounds, but that doesn't necessarily translate into like pushing because your cervix only dilates 10 centimeters,
right,
which is nothing. Well, it's large, but then
it's not that large.
It's not that large, right? So like your body is like doing crazy things, and you want to minimize like tearing or whatever, and also whatever that does to your pelvic floor, because if it's damaged, as a woman, like, you could just have incontinence, like you could just pee, you don't have control over that, like, so there's a lot of things to consider and just preparing for rehab. And I had asked Ariana also, this whole breastfeeding thing blows my mind, like, how do I know how to do that? But apparently, baby comes out and there's this lactation, a nurse that will help me, and almost it's like, I don't want to say barbaric, but almost like nature happens, where you just know, like, here's your boob, and this is,
and the baby will know too, which is shocking, because they've been getting fed through the tube. Yeah. So, and the baby will hopefully instantly latch, as long as there's no tongue tie or anything like that.
Yeah.
But
I didn't even know what a tongue tie was. And then I had to Google it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so what is a tongue tie for everybody else?
I think it's just their tongue can't suck properly when they're attached to the nipple, and it's just a little extra skin that's on the bottom of their tongue.
And you can get that, like, doctors snip it. It's just like a snip. And so it's important, because then they're not getting enough. And I also learned this, like, when the baby comes out, like, the baby has lost weight or loses weight. Right. So it's like that whole time, like, you're trying to get the baby back to
birth weight.
So this is it's nuts, and it's a lot of pressure, I think. And I've come to this conclusion: I will do my best, but I'm not going to scourge myself if I can't meet milk production, and I will just get very good formula.
Because at the end of the day, all you want is your baby to be fed and gaining weight, and if you can't breastfeed forever, that's fine.
Yeah. And a lot of people, a lot of women are like super whatever about breastfeeding. And it's like, that's awful. Like, if, we should all just be like, if you can breastfeed, great. If you have the ability to keep up with that, great. Some of us, like, maybe can't. I will definitely try. But yeah, so I had asked you, like, how does that even work? Like, what is, like, we looked into pumps. I finally did order a pump. So we'll see about that. Yeah, all kinds of things. So it's like, how does anybody know anything? And what's crazy is in the United States, we legitimately don't care about like government help for moms. Like in other countries, in European countries, they supply the women who new mothers with a ton of like help.
They get doulas, they get
Yeah.
postpartum care, they have everything for them.
They are really about it takes a village to like raise a kid. Like in Europe. But here, I don't know what happened, like it's so different. So, yeah. So I had Ariana do a lot of, research into what classes like John and I should take. I've also asked my therapist about a lot of things, a lot of, like you said, like what happens with the husband and wife. And John's probably going to be, I think he does listen to these podcasts. Like one time I was in his Jeep and like I heard myself and I was like, why are you listening to me? Like, that is so weird. But like, that does, like, I appreciate John so much more in this pregnancy than ever before. And I think that if you allow yourself to get knocked up, which is why I'm a proponent of being older, like you gotta really know that dude is like
Going
there
to take care of you.
because basically John has like, what the fuck is he doing like during these 9 months? Like there's not, changes to him. Like he's pretty like the same versus like me, I think the one pregnancy hormone situation that I struggle with, and I repeatedly talk about this with Mike Shea and my therapist, is like my changing body because it's so like, even with John, I'm like, I purposely, I like will not be naked around him.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I'm like, what are you doing? Get the hell out of here. Like, and it's like, I need to use the bathroom. Like, I'm very, and it's just because it's such my body's different. I'll like,
You're getting used to your body being different. It
yeah.
changes every day.
Yeah. And I just feel hideous. I'm like, I accuse him of thinking I'm hideous.
Oh.
Like, I'm like, you think I'm hideous. Like, 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 people, I don't know, like, if women talk about it, but yeah, like, you get very sensitive about that. And I think it's even quadruple for someone coming from the athletic space.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So I definitely feel that. And he's constantly like telling me, otherwise. And I think that it's really important for women to speak openly about how you really have to reach and still connect with your partner on that intimate level, because I think the last thing I would want my son to see is like not a solid foundation with mom and dad.
Right.
I want him to see like, okay, the first example is going to be like, okay, what's a loving relationship? Like, where is he going to get that if not between John and myself, And so I would say it is very hard as a woman going through pregnancy and, like the insecure parts of your insecurities of how your body changes, to want to stay like intimate with your partner. Like it's so different, right? For guys, like they find intimacy in being sexual. Like women, like, no, like I literally, I don't need like to feel, women are so different. But that's just how it is. And especially like, afterwards, with like, if you're not going to, have sex with your husband, like that's gonna be really difficult in the marriage, in the relationship. So I appreciate that fourth trimester, what you just were saying, because actually my therapist like brought that up.
Okay, good.
Like, oh, we're going to talk about, like your relationship. Like we talk about it now too, because, I tell her like, I don't want John like looking at me, or like, I like, don't touch me or whatever. And that is really, really important in after baby, and having like still connecting with your partner, because you can get super wrapped up and you forget about that relationship. And to John's credit, he actually was asking our night nanny, like, oh, so would you be able to come, earlier or whatever if we were going to do a date night. Aww. And I didn't even fucking think of that. Yeah. I was like, and so he's thought about that. So yeah, that's really important. But I think it's such a embarrassing thing for women to talk about.
And no one talks about it at all.
No. Like, do you on it? Like, and let's just be real. Like, I have this like belly and my boobs are weird. And it's like the last thing, like really like sex. Come on. Like,
that's the last thing on your mind, and probably the first thing on his.
Yeah. And it's like, why would you even think that this is like good? Because it's so like, it's not the same, like as you're used to your body being a certain way and then engaging in that, and now it's like yeah. So there's that. I think you were also looking at what other class, like John has the neonatal CPR.
Yes. Yeah, but we're definitely looking to CPR class, and just for protection and safety, and you always want to have that knowledge in the back of your head if God forbid anything were to happen. So definitely we're looking at a CPR and choking hazard class.
Yeah, like one of these, who did I tell this to? I have this horrible thing of watching doctor shows. Oh. I fucking hate lawyer shows, because it's like, no, it's not. That's not correct, because it's not sexy. That's not what happens. But I love doctor shows, and one of the shows happening on Netflix, it's called Emergency NYC, and it's one of the. I was
gonna start that. It's newer.
You should totally, and Shorty, you should totally watch it. It is like, it's literally things that are happening in various hospitals on an emergency basis. And one thing that made me want to throw up was this 2-year-old swallowed a battery. Oh, shit. Like a damn like AAA battery. And it's like, obviously, it can't, because it's a battery. And so they like had to put a microscope, and also it has a contraption to pull things out, but it was lodged there, and I was like, oh my God, like, how does that even, like no one, what was laying around, where was the kid? And that was like, wow, they really put anything in their mouth.
Oh, they do.
When they're that age. And I was like, wow. I guess just have the emergency room handy, and just never take your eyes off your kid, childproof everything. I mean, because what do they know? Like, everything looks like, let me put it in my mouth. Yeah, so anyway, that was like, holy shit. A AAA battery. That's pretty big.
And to go down a little kid's throat, and I was thinking,
and just like, get lodged there, and so he couldn't like breathe, and obviously they don't want it to like go deeper and then be in his like tummy or whatever. what the fuck?
Literally, what the fuck? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So anyways, you guys, like Emergency NYC. I binged that. I'm sad because now I don't have anything to watch because I was just like all week. I was like, oh my God, this is like, you don't want to watch it, but you're watching it. It's like gross. And what is crazy about this show is that they follow a large children's hospital in New York City. So you're seeing like these kids and the various kinds of shit that they get into, you know, like just being a kid, like, and sometimes it goes like more wrong. Yeah.
I think when I was a kid, I swallowed a penny. And my mom was like, oh, no, no, no. And I went to the emergency. I was in the emergency room a lot when I was a kid. I cracked my head open. I don't know if you guys remember Dragon Tales.
Dragon Tales?
Yeah, Dragon Tales. It's like Dragon Tales, Dragon Tales. And I was singing around to the intro song, and I knocked my head onto the corner of the couch. Cracked it open.
Cracked your head open? So you got stitches?
I didn't notice that I cracked my head open, though. So I was still dancing around, and my mom came out, and there's blood all over her couches, everywhere. And then she was like, we have to go. And I remember, like, vividly, I was like, I didn't have shoes on, and I remember going to the hospital. I didn't get stitches or staples, luckily. Like, luckily it wasn't too deep, but it was just gushing blood. And I remember they gave me stickers, and I was on my way. But those are things I remember.
How long? I mean, how old were you?
I have no idea how old I was, but that's something that, like, I will never forget.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. So did you even know you were hurt?
I didn't know I was hurt. I didn't know I was bleeding.
You didn't feel pain at all?
Mm-mm.
That's nuts. And I think probably what I noticed in that show is like the kids react to the parents. So it's not like they actually know that something, but when the mom is like going fucking nuts, then start
the kid's
crying.
Like, okay, yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen this. There was a joke that if you like slam your head right next to your baby, like slap your hands together right next to your baby, the baby will start crying thinking that you hurt them, but they know that you didn't hurt them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's just like a reaction that they have. So it's pretty funny.
Oh my God. Yeah. So in terms of the preparation and everything, like I mean, we're doing the baby bash because I think I put on my story, like, I notoriously hate baby showers. And I as I've said, like, I'm one of the last of my colleagues to have baby one. And so when I would be invited to all these baby showers, I would just not go. But I would send a gift, right? But when I did have to go, if it was a family member, it was always the same thing. It was always like just the same, you know, like, what was it? These like weird games, and I felt like it just didn't speak to really like speak more. And so, as you know, with the baby bash, one thing that's going to drive this is I only want people there that are going to actually be part of my son's life. And then another thing is, coming from a Filipino background, my parents, when I was growing up, so I'm 37, my younger brother's 4 years younger than me. They were so much about, they were educated in the Philippines, and, you know, they got their degrees. My dad is a civil engineer, and my mom was a registered nurse. Like, so, you know, obviously my mom's retired, my dad's still working because he doesn't want to be bored. And coming here, it really was like an American dream because they established themselves, and as a consequence, they really imparted upon my brother and I like the American way, right? But then they were like, education, and, you know, we want you to move up. We love American culture. And that's pretty typical in the Philippines because it was conquered by so many big powers, including the United States. Like everybody is like American crazy in the Philippines.
I think English is the primary language
English
now.
is the primary language there. So coming over here, having kids, and I think that also in Uplift, I endeavor to get all of the, if you guys didn't know, the young Filipino businesses under Uplift, because I feel like we're all together. And one of the things that I think you guys, my colleagues will know, my clients will know, is your parents want you to be Americanized, but at the same time, it's very confusing because as you're growing up, they haul you into all of these like Filipino functions.
Right.
And so they're like, we want you to be Americanized, but then you also get in trouble for not remembering that you're Filipino. So it's like, as you're growing up, you're like, oh, this is just so lame. Like, I remember we would go to a family friend's parties and, like we would be so bored. We wouldn't get it. Like, we would see like like Filipino dancers, or we would, about Filipino ways, like this is how you bless your auntie, this is how you talk, this is all of the things. And when you're growing up, you are just like, oh, like, no, like, do this is whatever. And then I find, like, as I've gotten older, and especially with now having a kid, I'm like, man, like, I really want my kid to know, like, he's Filipino, and this is like a really fucking amazing culture. And, like, there's a lot of Korean pride, like Chinese pride, Asian pride, blah, blah, blah. But there's like Filipinos, Filipinos really should be shouting that shit out, especially the younger new generation of Filipinos. And so it's funny, like with Winter's baby bash, I do want it to be glamorous. I do want it to be very communal and a nod to this kid is Filipino and this is what we grew up with, and he's going to grow up with it too. Also, I have a selfish interest. My colleague, Sheila Witt, she was in like early podcasts. She decided, she and her husband were like, taking kind of a step away from being lawyers, and they started a business, which I think is great. It's called Craft Collective, and I did, as I said, I mentioned it, or we did a podcast very early on where it's like, how many times where you have your kids and you want to go to an adult party but you don't have a sitter, or you bring your kids and you're like, occupied with your kid and you don't get to enjoy the adult party. So we're having her company, well, her and her husband, they're going to do like gather all the kids and do an activity so that the adults can actually enjoy the thing. And instead of putting your kid in front of a screen or like chasing your kid around, like all the kids can socialize with one another and they can actually be occupied with doing something. So that's one of the things that's going to be at the baby bash. And then, employing all of my clients who happen to be Filipino to bring their talents to the baby bash. So that, I think, is another aspect, like a new thing that I've been thinking about, which is very like different, I would say, because you're coming from that Filipino background, like Americanized, and now you're like, oh shit, like my language is important. I told my parents, like, yeah, I really do want you to speak to him in Tagalog, even as a baby, like just say whatever, because I mean, Jonathan doesn't know. He's only half Filipino, but he doesn't speak anything. So obviously he's going to speak in English. But, Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Filipino pride. Like,
There
I
is.
think that society doesn't really know really what is a Filipino.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's hard in general because Filipinos have been conquered so many times. And even when you look at certain Filipinos, some look fucking Chinese,
Mm-hmm.
but they're Filipino.
Right.
Some look completely like very like what is it, like ethnic, or very like from the like just native, but they're Filipino because of the occupations of the Spanish, the Chinese, the Japanese. So sometimes I think that Filipinos don't get a good spotlight
Mm-hmm.
because of so many other powers that have just dominated them. And I think that with the new generation, they're breathing life, a modern twist
Mm-hmm.
into what we grew up with and trying to show society, yeah, like what this is what being a Filipino is. To me, I think the biggest things I carry with me is like treating everybody who walks into Uplift like family,
Mm-hmm.
and not like I'm faking it. It's that I don't know how to treat you if I don't treat you like family, because I really care about what the hell is going on with you. Another thing is like food. I swear to God, if people aren't having good food or if it fucking runs out, I will die. Like it will be. So that is like a huge Filipinos. We commune through food.
Mm-hmm.
Even our language is just so like Spanish
Oh yeah,
influence.
definitely.
And so I'm very proud and excited for those coming to, who have are coming to the baby bash, who are invited to the baby bash, to really at the forefront see what it means. Because even myself, like I don't talk much about being Filipino,
Mm-hmm.
what that means, and why it is still important to do some traditional things in the way that is going to be meaningful for the next generation. You know, like what we know certain characteristics of the different Asians. You know, we know like it's jokes or whatever, but like, what do people think about the Filipinos? I mean, I've heard things like jungle Asian or, you know, Mexicans of Asia,
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, that we're savage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we fucking killed Magellan. I think that's badass. So, but there's more.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely more. I mean, we consistently, what do we, consistently win that damn what is that? That Miss Universe
Oh
pageant?
yes, always. Miss
Yeah, I
Philippines has
mean,
always been
so
that.
we do that. I know we we've been really open about transgenders because there are some really like women who are men and you wouldn't even know.
You wouldn't.
And so we did that.
Manny Pacquiao's a big one.
Yeah, I mean, all of my aunties and uncles, they can sing
Oh yeah.
terribly, but at least they're very entertaining karaoke. And I think that's like one of the things. If you have the pleasure of knowing a Filipino person, chances are they're going when you befriend them and you win their trust, like they're loyal. Like
They're like your family.
they will fucking stick by you. They will care. You come to their place or when they invite you. Like it's just even us being younger, like that just almost is in our blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't even like think about it. That's just how it is. So I would say with Filipinos, if you want to know what the basic core of a Filipino is, well, I think it's just family, and family not relegated to blood. It's like everybody genuinely will belong to a Filipino's fold, if you know one. So I'm excited for that baby bash because I don't really talk about it. I am excited for everybody who is like first generation Filipino to like start getting those feels and remember, hey, at the end of the day, like we were doing American things because our parents like were always saying to us, we came from the Philippines, we struggled for you, like you need to work hard, but at the same time you need to remember you're Filipino. And I think that that's gonna be a really important celebration for the baby bash.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty much it for this episode. I mean, stay tuned for other episodes. How's Uplift? How's the pregnancy? We're wrapping up pregnancy and what that looks like. So catch you at the other Lawyerlifter Podcast episodes. And that wraps up the Lawyerlifter Podcast, aka Mel's Minutes. Catch this episode on Apple or Spotify. See you next time.